One of the coolest things about the Brewtools Pro Series brewing systems is how modular they are. Whether you have the Brewtools B40 or the Brewtools B80 or even the Brewtools 150, you can configure it exactly how you want it with as many valves as you need. But when you're just getting started, all these options can be a bit overwhelming. So in this video, I'll break it all down and show you different setups using 0 valves all the way up to 4 valves, and I'll explain what you might get out of each additional valve. First, let's take a quick look at the system itself. On the front of the machine, we see the touchscreen control panel that you'll use to control your brew date and make updates to the operating system. To the right of that, we have a 4-position handle that controls the valve located under the machine. More on this later. Moving on, we see the first of 3 34mm tri-clamp ports, and just to the right, we can see the pump that's connected to the valve underneath the machine. On the left side of the machine, we have 2 more tri-clamp ports. The top port goes right into the kettle, just like the one on the opposite side, and the bottom port is connected to the valve located underneath the machine. Now, when I connect some tubing, this will all start making sense. On the right side, you'll connect the tri-clamp port to the pump, and on the left side, you'll connect the 2 ports together. With this 0 valve setup, wort is drawn from the right side of the kettle down to the pump, where you'll use the built-in valve to decide where it goes. Up center will recirculate up the center pipe into the mash. Pump out will go out the bottom left port, back into the top port, and create a whirlpool. And if you point the handle in between the two, it will do both. With this setup, I would assume you're using an immersion chiller, transferring to your fermenter using a siphon, and you're either not sparging or you're sparging by hand. When you add a valve to the setup, now sparging gets a bit easier as you can connect your sparge water source right here. Sparge water comes in, down to the pump, and then up over the mash as it sits draining above the runnings. Not only that, but when it comes time to drain the kettle, you can also use this port to run right into your fermenter. Still, with this setup, I'd assume you're using an immersion chiller since there's not really a way to disconnect the hoses on the left side of the kettle. Which brings us to the 2-valve setup. You'll want to add this second valve to the top port on the left side of the kettle because now you have a way to close each port. If you imagine an arrow pointing away from the handle of the valve, it always points to the closed port. So here, the open port is closed, and now the port leading into the kettle is closed. Remember that the bottom left port can be closed by turning the built-in valve to the up center position. With the 2-valve setup, you have the option of ditching the immersion chiller and using something like a counterflow or plate chiller. To do this, you'll come out the bottom port, come up and take a left out of the 3-way valve into the chiller, back out into the top of the kettle. But with the line running into the top of the kettle, you won't be able to whirlpool and chill at the same time. To do that, we're going to need another valve. The 3rd valve can go on the bottom left port, and now we have 2 complete loops on the left side of the kettle. With the 3-valve setup, you can whirlpool without the chiller and with the chiller. The problem you run into here is how do you drain to the fermenter? One option is just to chill the entire kettle and drain from the open port on the right side, but otherwise, you'll have to disconnect the hose coming out of the chiller. To avoid that potential mess, you can of course add yet another valve. The 4-valve setup makes it possible to recirculate the mash, sparge, whirlpool, chill, and drain to the kettle without disconnecting a single hose. That's the beautiful thing about the modularity you get with these Brewtools Pro Series brewing systems. All of that control provides convenience for sure, but also precision. And trust me, it doesn't stop with just the valves. There are plenty of other accessories you can mix into your setup to help make your brew days more repeatable, more efficient, more convenient, and all around just more fun. If you ask me, you should either go with 1 valve and an immersion chiller or go all out with 4 valves in the counterflow chiller. Anything in between those two just introduces more hassle than I think it's worth. My name's Dan, this is Hops and Gnarly, and if you like this video, I can't wait for you to see season 5 of Hops and Gnarly Brewing. Check out the details below. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'll see you again soon.